Peace, family. My name is Ray.
My name is Jay.
And we are
the Acre Boyzz.
Peace to the Classy Clown.
For sure.
And Ericka Williams and the whole network. We wanted to come and tap in with you guys and talk about all that we have going on.
That's right.
Talk about all the things we've done in the land space. And more importantly, we want to talk about how you can position yourself to capitalize on all that the land space has to offer.
For sure.
And we want to start off with one major, small component, but massive and powerful, and that is tax deed investing.
Definitely, right? So when you think about tax deeds, right? First of all, just coming in from a space of not knowing, right? I don't know how many people out there are familiar with tax deeds. I don't know how many people who are not familiar with tax deeds, but let's go from the space of somebody who's not familiar at all. Here's what happens, right? You know, there's a lot of times you get information from certain places, right? But keep in mind, you have to be looking for information too as well, right? Because sometimes when you're in a certain position and you want to do something in life, you've got to go ahead and gravitate out to people who are actually doing that, right? Because when we first heard about tax deed investing, it was like, I was working in a mortgage office at that point in time, right? I heard the term get thrown around here and there, but I've never seen anybody that actually did it, right? We live in the state of New York, and as I started to look at some of those tax deed auctions, I saw that some of those places were still going for big money. So number one thing that I learned about that initially coming out the gate is this, right? You know, you don't necessarily have to do a whole bunch of huge deals in order to make money, right? And my point in time, remember, I'm coming from a New York point of view, so everything is pretty expensive. I had no idea at that point in time that these tax deed auctions were located all throughout the country in different markets as far as price point, as far as getting involved in denomination, right? So that's one thing, right? So we went out and seek mentorship. You know, that's primarily what we do. No need to figure this stuff out on your own when I can go ahead and reach out to somebody who's actually done it, right? So our first mentor, first thing he told us after we was looking for him, right? The first thing he told us, he said, listen, have you ever done any tax deed investing before? I said, no, I've been in real estate and done other different things before, but I've never done any actual tax deed investing. So he said, good, because if you did, I probably wouldn't take you. See, I didn't understand at that point what he was saying until later on he explained what that actually meant. He explained that through his experience, it is really, really hard in order to go ahead and teach somebody something who already had prior experience. It's almost like you had to break something in order for them to learn something new, right? So they said, one of my favorite quotes is, the uneducated man is not the man that didn't go to school. The uneducated man is the person who's lost his ability to unlearn and relearn. So that's part of that process. But being that we would come in clean slates, we didn't have to unlearn anything because, you know, we would just come in a clean slate. So he told us specifically, right, in this market that he was going to go ahead and show us how to purchase properties for $50 and turn around and sell those properties anywhere in between $1,700 to $3,000. Now, here's what you got to understand.
I love when he like casually he throws these things out. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Yo, that's a big,
it's a
very
big thing.
small, but that is a big thing that you can buy a piece of dirt
for $50,
for
right?
$50.
For sure. So it's a huge thing. And you know what's crazy? And you might, you know, because you've done it so many times, it starts to become more commonplace for you or whatever the case may be. But during that line, and I'm saying to myself, first thing you do when you hear new information like that, especially as something that you haven't heard of before, the first thing you do is push it away, right? But understand, one thing we come to understand is you don't know what you don't know. When somebody says that they can do something, you allow them to say that they can walk on water until they actually get on water and they drown. But in this specific instance, it didn't drown at all. They had the proof of concept and showed us exactly how to go about it and do this, right? Now, these properties that we're buying for $50, right? You got to remember, these properties are not located in Beverly Hills. They're not located in, you know, all of these are, you know, beautiful, you know, abundant areas, right? However, the fact that you can go ahead and buy a piece of property for $50, I don't care where it is, for $50 and turn around and sell it. Now, in some of the communities that we're looking at purchasing these properties, right, we used to always say, well, who is going to want to buy some of these properties in these so-called, areas that don't look, the best, or whatever the case may be. But you got to remember, do people reside at those actual locations? That's what you got to remember. Even if they don't want to be there, if that's where their pocket fits for that specific time, they're going to tend to buy inside of those areas. So we found out in a short period of time that more than we knew that people were willing and able to go ahead and get these properties. But here was the big secret, right? These properties were readily available. But here was the crazy part about it. 98% of the people that we came in contact in these areas didn't know that these properties are actually for sale. This is where we talk about getting that actual education so you can move yourself forward along in that process.
So tax deed investing, right? Huge, huge industry, right? This has been going on forever, right? It will be going on forever as long as the earth keeps spinning the way it does. When we said the earth doesn't, the earth doesn't spin. Right. So if you're one of those, whatever the earth does, if it spins, if it skips, whatever it does,
right.
Long as it's in existence, this will be going on, right? This is real estate. Real estate is the first transaction in the real estate business. Land is the first transaction in the history of real estate. Mm-hmm. So this will be going on for quite some time. So let's just explain, brief explanation, what tax deed investing in. I'll try to be quick with this. I don't know who knows what, so I'll assume that this is beginners that's getting this information. So tax deed investing, if you're a homeowner, whether you own a piece of property or a piece of land, you're responsible for doing what? Paying taxes across the country. This is how counties work off of tax paying dollars, right? When people don't pay their taxes, county, state, local, municipality, they'll slap a lien on the property, right? They'll slap it on there for what's owed, the back taxes that's owed. I'm going to speed up the whole process. To make a long story short, if they never pay after several notices going out, they'll slap a lien on it, right? They'll foreclose on the property. Once they foreclose on the property, the property comes back on their books. Guess what? They don't want the property. They're not in the business of being a real estate agent. They're not in the business of being a real estate company. Right. This is the county. They want tax-paying dollars to keep the county functioning, i.e. the school districts, i.e. the sanitation departments and things like that. Everything that tax-paying dollars covers. So they're eager to get these things off of their books. So they have auctions, right? Typically, they start off, not typically, almost all the time. We're moving into a new era. It's 2024. Mm-hmm. So now it may be around half and half. But it used to be where auctions were all starting in person, right? You would meet up, they would have a live auction. It still happens quite often, about half and half the time. You meet up in person to buy the property, and what doesn't sell at the auction, they'll put it on what we call the OTC list, the over-the-counter list. Right. That is where we come into play at. When it comes to the over-the-counter list, we'll comb through that list. That's what Jay was talking about when we came in and we were getting those $50 buys. We got them off for the over-the-counter list, things that didn't sell at the live auction. We went through it, and you were still able to find really, really good deals. But make no mistake, the cream of the crop properties are at the live auction.
For sure.
But there's several reasons why some properties that are still cream of the crop make it to the over-the-counter list. Let's talk about those reasons. Well, maybe no one showed up for that auction. Maybe they didn't have the money. Maybe it was a long list and people ran out of money and they couldn't buy them all at that time. Sure. So it moved to the over-the-counter list. There's several reasons how these properties go from one place to another place.
Yeah.
But this is where you come in at. This is where I come in at. This is not for like a secret society or a secret group of people has exclusive rights to these lists. Mm-hmm. You have the same rights to these lists. You just have to know where to find these lists at, put yourself in position, and know what you're looking at. The biggest thing that we find that when we're dealing with tax deeds with new people is that if I spell it out for you, if I write it on your forehead and tell you where to go, you wouldn't know what you're looking at when you got there.
Absolutely.
So then when you get there, you may buy a bad piece. And then you'll say, oh, the land space, this doesn't work. Acre Boyzz told us we can make money in the land space. Well, you can make money, but you must buy the right piece, right? So there's two reasons that land doesn't sell. Right? Either you bought a bad piece or it's priced too high. Those are the main two reasons that we have found throughout the years of why land does not sell.
For sure.
If you buy the right piece, you never, and I'll put money on that. You never have a problem selling it.
Right.
Just find a sweet spot for the price. Fact. Now, we'll put you in front of lists ranging from, as we stated, where you can buy land for an unbelievable price of $50, ranging all the way up to $100,000. So I don't want you to think that this is just some type of cheap market, because make no mistake about it, the higher the place, meaning the more desirable the place, the higher the amount they're asking for the property.
That's right.
So it brings us to the question, does land sell in bad areas? Jay touched on that. So that's how we're able to get it for $50. Right. That's how we're able to get it for $200 and $300 and $500, because we're getting it in areas they're not the most desirable areas. Some of these areas, believe it or not, for $500, they look fairly decent.
Yeah, for sure.
Like some of these areas, it's like, all right, this looks safe.
Right.
This looks safe.
Right.
Like I can drive through there. I may want to, if I wanted to park my car or my RV there, I can buy this and use it for whatever the reasons are. Some of these areas do look pretty rough. But I'm here to tell you that we've bought in some of the nicest places across the country and some of the worst areas across the country, and they all sold.
For sure, definitely, and I think it's something to be said also about the buyers of these properties, right? You're talking about, listen, we have even been on these tax deed lists, even though we primarily focus on land primarily, we have came across a house or two or whatever the case may be. And here's the interesting thing when you talk about this and doing this over a long period of time, right? Here's what you can start to develop, right? You can start to develop an actual buyer's list of people who want these properties. We have developed an extensive list over a period of time. And now, as opposed to going and placing these properties up for sale, we contact our actual buyers list because we already know what they're actually looking for. So they say, anything that you get in this specific area right there, I'll go ahead and grab it. You don't have to list it. You don't have to do anything, right? So I remember it was a Spanish guy. We were in someplace in Arkansas, and it was a Spanish guy. What he did was he remodeled homes. He built homes, did all these different kind of things. And he found us on Facebook. I believe it was Facebook Marketplace. He called about one particular listing. We had a conversation. We told him, listen, it is for sale and you can get it for XYZ price. He wound up buying the property and saying, hey, listen, if you can keep going and keep receiving these properties, I'll go ahead and be the person that actually buys every property from you that's in that designated area, right? So this is one of the reasons why, depending on where the property is located, we don't have to hustle and bustle, because inside of some of these areas, we're buying houses with land attached to it for $600, $1,000, $1,500, whatever the case may be. Now, granted, did the house need a whole bunch of renovation? Absolutely, a whole bunch of renovation. However, if you have somebody who's coming in and actually does the work, he can actually go over there, visit the property, see exactly what he can do with it, and based off of his rehab costs or whatever the case may be. And that's one of the most important things. Who is your end user to these properties, right? Because when we were first coming in, just like Ray said, when we first looked at it, we didn't know who the end user, because keep in mind, we're coming from an urban standpoint inside of New York. Like, well, who would actually want these properties without having any idea that in all of these markets, all around the United States, you have people that are willing and able to pay you money for these properties that you picked up for pennies on a dollar that they didn't even know that was for actual sale.
So what does that look like for you, right? And the easiest way to simplify this is that as a tax deed investor, you'll come in and you'll look at lists, you'll comb through a list of properties. For me, I get excited when I hear lists. Like when somebody tells me I have a list of properties for you, I get excited because I want to see what I can find, because I know what it is equivalent to. For me, it's equivalent to dollars. Good property, dollars.
For sure.
So I get excited when I see, especially when I see a nice lengthy list, because it has to be something in there, is what I say.
Right.
But that's what you'll be doing. You'll be combing through lists when you're doing tax deed investing and not going to the live auction. Even if you plan on going to the live auction, you still will be combing through lists, because you need to know what you're going to bid on at the live auction. And they give you the list at least 2 weeks before the auction, some before that time, but at least 2 weeks, you need to comb through it and you need to know what you're going to bid on at the auction. So familiarize yourself with how to look at a list, right? And here's where the expertise come in at. Each place, they give you parcel numbers to pull up the property. It's different. Sometimes you have to figure out how to put the parcel number in.
Right.
Sometimes you have to call up to the county and ask them to decode it. If you can get somebody on the phone, we're pretty good at doing that because we've dealt with pretty much all the counties that's inside of the tax deed space. Speaking of that, how many counties are there, or how many states, should I say, that's tax deed states?
For sure.
31. There's 31 tax deed states. And out of those 31, some of those are dual states. Dual states meaning that they do two things. They're redemption states plus tax deeds, meaning they start off as a tax lien, then they move to a tax deed. That's a whole nother video. That's a whole nother play. We're not going to get into what a redemption state is. We want to focus on a tax deed state. And why do we want to focus on a tax deed state? So, because that's the fastest way that we found that we can take ownership of the property.
For sure.
And once we have ownership of the property, at that point, it's ours to do whatever we like to do, whether we want to keep it, whether we want to go and look to put something on it, or whether we want to sell it. We, Acre Boys, we probably want to sell it for us, because this is what we do for a living. We sell properties for a living. And this is exactly where we started off. Let's talk about the beginning of our journey. We were working on 9-to-5 jobs, and our plan was this just to be a side thing until it wasn't a side thing anymore. So we started off with $50 buys. Our first very sale was a buy for 50. How much did we sell for?
1,700, 1,600, something like that.
Something like
somewhere
that.
in there. Yeah, right.
So what is the ROI on a buy for 50, sell for 1,700? I mean, coming from any part of the country, any financial expert or financial advisor would tell you that's excellent return.
Yeah, for sure.
The ROI on that, you're like, I don't know, what is that? It's like 20x in your money, whatever it is.
It's crazy. It's a lot. It's a lot. ROI is huge. And on top of that, here's what you got to remember, right? You know, the average person, our net profit on a deal like that is probably about if we sold it for $1,700, our net profit on that deal is over $1,600. If you look at what people make in the United States based off the average, that's more than what most people make, you know, for the week on their actual job. So that's when we know that we had something, right? Because our mentor, who before us came, and they were on this list. Now I'm not going to say we were late, but they came 10 years.
No, we were late.
Before us, or whatever the case may be, right? And here's what you got to understand. They were buying properties at that time for $50 and selling them between $15,000 and $20,000, right? But that's, again, like we always go back to, the power of information. You cannot take advantage of something that you don't know anything about. And even if you knew something about it, you probably wouldn't actually pull the trigger on it, because it's going to take a lot for you to actually figure it out inside of that space. So I always go back to, again, the power of having somebody who's already walked that walk before, grab your hand and take you through. Because also, what is it going to do? It's going to actually create some positive motivation in you, because now you're just not figuring out on your own by yourself to the corner. You're having somebody guide you through it. And that's the power of going through that process, right? And there's so many different things in tax deed investing. Like you just said, there's 31 actual counties that you could...
No, states. 31 states, right. Tax deed states.
Right. There's 31 tax deed states that you can actually invest in. And here's the thing, you know, in a lot of these states, they have 200 counties. You know what I mean? All different kind of things. So it's just a matter of you tapping into the actual information and putting yourself in a position where you can actually execute.
Yeah, so as Jay said, the ROI is off the charts on that. Now, where did we sell this property at? Our very first sale was on eBay. So believe it or not, a lot of properties get sold on eBay. Me, myself, personally, these days, we don't really preach or teach to sell on eBay, because there's a lot of fees on eBay, and you have to beware of a lot of scams that happen on eBay.
Oh, yeah.
So the major place for us with tax deed investing that usually get the job done is Facebook Marketplace and Zillow, right? And there's things that we teach to be more effective on Facebook Marketplace to make yourself a credible seller on the marketplace. There's things that you can do to get your properties out there more than the average person gets theirs out there. We teach that inside of our program. So, in closing, for the CLASSYIT network,
let's go.
Tax deed investing has changed our lives. As we stated when we started, this was a side thing for us. We were working on 9 to 5 jobs. But when you start doing deals and you're seeing a profit of $1,500, right? Guess what we did at that point? Instead of buying one, we went and bought 3, right? Once we bought 3, in our community, it's called POC. We got that proof of concept that this method works. Once we had that proof of concept, that 3 quickly turned to 15. Then that 15 turned to 50. Right. Then we were in a flow. So now instead of doing 1 or 2 a month, we were closing on 10 to 15 of these in a month. Now you do the math. When you're making 1,000, 2,000 sometimes, you couldn't offend me with a bad offer.
For sure.
If I was buying for 50 and I had it listed for 2,500 and somebody said, I'll give you 14. They thought they were getting a great deal. Guess what? We said, I'll take it. Because it was all profit. It was the Frank Lucas approach for us. All profit for us. And we were doing so many of these that after a while, after about 2 years, we started having talks of, this is outdoing the job. It was running neck and neck with the salary on the job. And we made $100,000 on our job. So once it started running neck and neck with the job salary, we know that the job is not giving you off. They tell you how many days that you can have off. So we start saying, look, we're getting really good at picking these things up and evaluating these things. Let's buy more. This is when, I was the one that was looking to go super aggressive. And Jay was like, hold
on.
Wait a minute.
Let's sell these first.
Let's sell these first before we go and get more.
Right.
And after a while, then Jay came up to speed with me and said, you're right. Let's buy them all.
Buy them all. Yeah.
So we started buying them all. And then we've never had a problem selling them.
For sure.
I want to be totally honest with you. I'm just throwing numbers out there because I don't know how many we bought, but it was a whole lot of them. If we bought 200 of them, we sold about 180 of them. And the reason that I know that there was some left over, because recently, like a year ago, we just happened to look in the folder and find what was left over, and we sold them.
We sold those too.
And we sold those too.
And after those profits, now keep in mind, y'all, those were $50. I think the most we did was $100 on one. And off of those deeds that we have left, I don't know if it was 9, 10, well, it was 12. It could have been 15. I don't know. But we wind up, making about 20-something thousand just based off of something.
Off of old deeds that we had
sitting to the side. And even forgot that we actually own, right? So that's the power in all of this. So the power is coming into, especially if you don't know anything about an industry, right? Coming into an actual industry, taking in the information and be willing to execute on what you've actually done. Like I said, once we started doing this and outpacing the job, just like, oh my God, we could go out. Now keep in mind, y'all, this is virtual, which means that for anybody who has a job, which is not like a work from home, whatever the case may be, you physically have to be there to make the money. This digital arena is like something that I have never seen before. It's because I don't have to actually show up. Here's what I need, right? I need Wi-Fi. I need a laptop. I can be on vacation. I can be at home. I can be in the office. And in any of those places, I can operate my business just like that.
In my pajamas.
In my pajamas. Whatever I say, and I don't. And here's the thing. I don't have to actually meet anybody either. When we're buying these properties from these auctions, once the county sells us the deed, we're the owner. We put it out there and we market it for sale. We're not going to any closings. We have a payment processor that takes in the payments for us. And then we go ahead and make that deed for that person. And once they get that deed in the mail, it will be reflecting them as the new owner. So the process, like as I started to get older, I didn't want to actually have to go anywhere to make money. And tax deed, initially, tax deed was the actual place.
He said as he got older, he didn't want to go nowhere to make money. I'm going to tell you the aha moment because he called me. It was a guy that was doing a home-based business that he had a conversation with, and that guy told him, I make about $400,000 a month from a home-based business. And I remember you called me. And you was like, you won't believe this guy just told me he's in his pajamas at home. He was in his underwear, to be honest. And he makes $400,000 a month from a home-based business. And that's when we was like, we're playing the wrong game.
Yeah. I think I think that's that's part of that process, right? Once you see people who have actually done things in a different space, it just opens your eyes up to not that it was new. It's new to you because you haven't actually been involved in that space, right? So brick and mortar out, digital in, and that's the arena that we're living in right now, right? Anybody who's not familiar that we're in the digital arena, kudos to you if you like what you do and you like going into work every day. But for me personally, I'm just speaking on my behalf. I want to be in a place where I can operate from anywhere, and I don't need to, actually physically be anywhere in order to make actual income.
So it is 2024. We invite you guys to come do some tax deed investing with us. To be totally transparent, $50 buys are pretty hard to come across these days.
Right.
But however, just 2 days ago, we just found a place that you can buy deals consistently for $250. So there are $250 deals going on. There are $500 deals consistently. I can put that in front of you quite often. $500 buys, $800 buys, $1,000 buys. This is what we've been giving to our audience, and they've been doing great. In fact, they have been killing it. Before we go, we just want to drop some numbers from some of the investors that come to mind. One investor, he bought for $1,500 for a property that was worth $45,000.
Right.
Another one bought for $4,000 that was worth $11,000. Another one bought for $250, property worth $3,000. Another one bought for $600. List priced on it is on sale now for $3,500. Several of them bought for $300.
Right.
List price range anywhere from $1,500 to $3,500. So it's so many. It's always an auction going
everywhere.
on.
That's right.
I tell people, just what are you waiting for? You can play the sidelines. This won't stop happening. Trust me.
For sure.
If this is not for you, I understand. But it won't stop going on, whether it's for you or it's not for you. So for the Classy Climb Network, we absolutely have a huge respect for Ericka and what she does.
For sure.
So we definitely want to invite you guys into our arena. And we want to offer a discount for coming inside of our arena and come work with us. We're looking for people that's willing, that sees it. If any of this resonated with you,
that's right.
It's time. Now is the time to take advantage of all that's out there, because it's out there.
Right.
And these are not my properties. Right. This is what the county has to offer. I just want people to take advantage of it. I don't buy them anymore. Me and Jay, we don't buy tax deeds anymore. We do a lot bigger deals these days. So we don't, but we know where to get them from, and we give them to the people. At times, we even say, buy that one. Look, buy that one. Buy that one. That's a good one.
That's right.
So, and it's first come, first serve. Whoever gets their money in, the property becomes yours. And who you're getting, more importantly, you're getting the Acre Boyzz. We're super passionate about what we do. We're super passionate about making sure you're successful. Why? Because if you're not successful, then we don't have a program.
That's the reality. So, this is the industry. We tell everybody the land business is an industry that's been hidden in plain sight. And the only thing it takes was somebody who's teachable. You got to be teachable first and foremost. If you don't know anything about it, you got to be teachable and willing to do the actual work. If you could do that, there's no questions about whether you can become successful inside of this space.
So we'll drop the link below along with the Classy Climb exclusive discount code down below, and hope to see you on the inside with us. So until the next time, invest in dirt.
It's the cleanest way to make money. Peace, y'all.